Hi, my name is Michelle Beggs and I'm from Verve Financial Limited. My goal today is to provide you with some tips and strategies so that you can take them away and help you achieve financial resilience and stability. Financial well-being means different things to everyone, and to me, financial well-being is about feeling in control of your finances, knowing that you can and how you will cope with financial shocks, having some financial goals that you're tracking, having the freedom to make choices like going on holiday, starting a family, change jobs, just an overall sense that you know your finances and that you can handle them. These are the 4 pillars that we're going to be exploring in today's presentation. And whilst we can't cover everything, I've picked out a few topics for us to focus on. Budget planning is at the core of feeling in control of your finances. You can use apps like Emma, Money Hub and Snoop, or there's bank-based apps like Monzo and Starling. You could use paper-based, notebook and pen, or Excel spreadsheets. And Money Saving Expert website provides a comprehensive budget planning method that you can log into regularly and keep updated. There are different methods of budgeting. So you have the envelope method. So back in previous times, somebody would have several envelopes that they would fill with cash. So you'd have one envelope with your bills, one envelope with your entertainment money, you'd have one for gifts, you'd have one for travel, etc. Nowadays, we have the ability to open up plenty of different accounts with plenty of different providers as well, so you can use online banking instead. You have the 50-30-20 method, which is where 50% of your net income, what you bring in, goes on your household bills. 30% goes towards trips and spending money, and then 20% would go towards the future, so saving into retirement or into investments. Make sure that you review your budgets as well. Don't just set it and forget it. Make a money date. Review your bank statements. What went well? What did you miss? What will you do differently next month or next quarter? Use websites like moneysavingexpert.com for regular updates on all things finances. They give us up-to-date savings rates, different credit card deals, and lots of other information in between. You should always set up an emergency savings pot. Ideally, you'd get to between 3 to 6 months of expenditure and no more. Save into separate pots for other things like your sinking funds for when you're constantly paying out for car repairs, your MOT, and give yourself targets to hit. So, for example, you can have a target that you won't spend any more than X pounds a month on takeaways, or get yourself to a set amount in emergency funds. Something small like that, that's achievable. Calculating interest can be tricky because it really does depend on the type of interest being charged. You have simple interest, which is only calculated on the amount borrowed or invested, and the total amount of interest paid you get by multiplying the amount borrowed or invested by the interest rate agreed times by the amount of time that you hold the investment or the borrowing for. Whereas your compound interest is calculated on the original amount borrowed or invested plus any previously accrued interest as well. So interest earning interest on itself. The total amount grows exponentially as interest then compounds on the interest. For example, if you invested £10,000 at a rate of 5% for 5 years, simple interest would be £2,500. £10,000 times 0.05, which is the interest rate, times 5 years gives you 2,500. So you'd have a total of 12,500 at the end of 5 years using simple interest. Using compound interest though, you would take 10,000, multiply that by 1.05 to the power of 5, which gives you a total amount of £12,762.81, which is £262.81 greater than on the simple method basis. This is really important to know so that you can calculate how much interest you're likely to have if you are saving in a fixed term account or if you are borrowing money as well and you're comparing 2 different loans. In life, we must consider that things don't always go to plan. There are many risks in life, but here are some that will most likely affect your finances. Most of these risks can be insured against, although redundancy insurance is rare now, but a good emergency fund will provide the cover for you in that situation. One common plan that I see to manage these risks is to be invincible. The "it won't happen to me" attitude is the protection a lot of people are opting for. So I looked at the chances of a male aged 35 who is planning to retire at age 65 experiencing a life event before they reach their retirement. And there was a 31.5% chance of them not being able to work for longer than a month, a 14% chance of getting a critical illness, and just a 4.3% chance of dying. On the screen, what you can see is the insurance options available to us to protect us against some of those risks. For life cover, there's a lump sum that can be paid to your family in the event of your death before the policy would end. For critical illness policies, they would give you a lump sum or an income that's paid to you if you're diagnosed with a specified critical illness that meets the definitions of the policy provider. And finally, income protection is a monthly income that's paid to you when you're unable to work due to ill health, whether that's short or long term. It can cover you against mental illness, musculoskeletal, so back pain, injuries to your legs, arms, etc., as well as the long-term illnesses, the more severe cancers, stroke, heart attack, etc. You can think of income protection as a sick pay policy. One of the most rewarding parts of my job is helping someone to achieve a financial goal that they've set themselves. Having a goal and breaking it down into small steps can really add to good mental health and overall well-being, as well as being a good pillar of financial well-being. To have one of each, short-term goals like building an emergency fund, saving for a house, saving to go on family holiday, or even reducing things like household expenditure. And have a long-term one as well. So saving for retirement is the most typical long-term goal. And this can include bucket list trips as well as just being able to afford your current standard of living. 45% of people aren't sure whether they're saving enough for retirement. And here are some figures from the Retirement Living Standards, who conducted research into how much income you're likely to need in retirement to meet 3 different standards of lifestyle. You can find those at retirementlivingstandards.org.uk. The minimum standard says that you would need £14,400 per year for a single person, and this will cover your needs with a little bit left over for fun. So the first area is food spending. You would get £50 a week for your food shop, plus another £25 per month for out of the house eating, and £15 a fortnight for your takeaway. You'd have £100 a year to spend on repairs or improvements to the home. And in the area of travel, you wouldn't be able to afford a car, but you would get £100 a year for trains, £10 a week for taxis. For holidays and leisure, you'd get 1 week UK-based holiday. You can have broadband plus 1 streaming service. For clothes and personal, you'd get up to £630 per year. And for helping others, that would give you £20 for each birthday and Christmas present, and another £50 per year to charity. Thinking about where your income will come from, the state pension is £10,600 per year currently. You would need to build a fund of around £80,000 in pension pots by the age of 67 to give you a total income of £15,000 per year if we're including the state pension. Any more than that will help you either retire earlier or spend more money. You and your employer will be saving regularly into a pension unless you have opted out. And the more you can add and the younger you are, the easier it is to be able to afford to retire comfortably. Being flexible is key to good financial well-being. Make sure you have room to adjust your budget when income is lower. Keep an eye on your credit score to make sure that you can access credit sensibly when necessary. Use 0% credit cards when you need to, but make sure you don't take out so much on the credit cards on the 0% that if you have an outstanding balance by the end of the 0% period, you can still move and shop around. Make sure you're not staying loyal to a bank and getting the best rates and deals for your own personal circumstances. One thing we haven't reviewed during this presentation, which was helpful to discuss in detail with a previous group, was about buying a house. When your home is tied to your employment, you do need to prepare for life after tied accommodation. In the UK, there are a number of lenders who are willing to consider allowing you to have a residential mortgage on a property that you rent out while still living in the accommodation tied to your job. These mortgages are available with a minimum of 5% deposit, subject to criteria and credit scoring, and on what we would consider to be typical current UK mortgage rates, which are lower than buy-to-let. Purchasing a property now and renting it out means that you'll have a home to go to when you retire or stop working in the employment with the tied accommodation, and that you're not starting out later on in life when securing a mortgage might be more difficult or more expensive. Even if you can't afford the home you would want to retire into now, it's still sensible to look at purchasing a property to rent out because house prices rise regularly, and having a house to sell to buy another one will help make things easier for you later on in life. I strongly recommend that you seek professional mortgage advice if you think that this could be something you're interested in. An independent mortgage broker will be able to advise you on the best mortgage for your circumstances rather than what an individual bank is able to offer you. And in addition, you should be aware that rental income is subject to income tax rates. I hope that this presentation has been useful, and if anybody has any questions, please feel free to contact me on the details provided.